Please Don't Take Mummy Away is the latest Maggie Hartley book. This was published 2 days ago in 2024, of course. It's published by Seven Dials, and I almost read it in one sitting. I got to 80 something percent on Kindle and my eyes were shutting. I had to go to bed, but I almost read it in one sitting because it is really great. It's not the most gripping insofar as there are shocking twists and turns, but it is a very compelling narrative. These are, of course, based on truth, but with enough modifications to protect the identity of those involved. And in this one, Maggie is fostering two young children called Coco and Lola. And this is because their mother is potentially being charged with neglect. The only thing I don't like about the book is the opening chapter, because it's from the perspective of the police officers who were called to this store where the mother Zoe has been caught stealing. And the reason I don't like this is because it almost makes it read like a novel, like fiction, because the rest of the book is obviously from Maggie's perspective, but having it starting with a scene that Maggie would have no knowledge of. She wasn't there. She doesn't know what the officers were thinking. It kind of makes it read like a work of fiction, and I don't like that. But thankfully, the rest of it is from Maggie's perspective. And what's very unexpected from the very beginning of the book is that Coco and Lola are very polite, very well mannered little girls. They know how to eat properly with cutlery. They know how to wash themselves. They have really good self care. They have good imaginative play. There are no signs of neglect, emotional neglect at the very least. But the flat they're living in is not fit for purpose, not because of the mother's fault, because landlords are sometimes not great people. And it's unclear whether Zoe is going to be prosecuted for going out and leaving her children on their own. They are very young children, of course, and Zoe is obviously panicking that she's going to have to go to prison and that she'll not get to be with her girls. And on top of that, they have a social worker who is not a nice person. Very, very well written. I'm assuming that she is very heavily based on a true person, but either way, she's well written insofar as it was very easy to dislike this social worker. And I won't say what happens with that part of the story, but it definitely frustrated me. Very well written, but very frustrating. And as I said, it's not the most shocking with twists and turns. This is largely because Zoe wants to be a good parent and is very cooperative, and the children are very well behaved. So we don't have that many tantrums or anything like that. But I did want to know what happened next, and I wanted to find out what ultimately would happen. And I will say, well, as I said, I almost read it in one sitting. And had I maybe started reading half an hour earlier, I probably would have read it in one sitting because it's very easy to read, and I did want to know what happened. So I really enjoyed it. A couple of typing errors, a couple of grammatical errors. There's this weird thing where random words will just have a dash in the middle of them. I assume it's got something to do with the formatting of the Kindle version. It happened at least 3 or 4 times, which irritated me. But other than that, it is very well written. Other than that, very well formatted, and definitely one that I enjoyed. If you're a fan of Maggie Hartley in general, or you just like foster care or memoirs, then this is a really good one to read. It's also a good entry level foster care or memoir because it's not as harrowing as some, it's not as shocking as some, it's a little bit easier to read aside from the very frustrating social worker. But if you're new to foster care or memoirs, it's a really good one to start with because it's not as challenging to read as some of the other stories. Sometimes some of the stories of neglect and abuse are really difficult to read, but as I've said, it's a very unusual situation here, and I really enjoyed it. Please Don't Take Mummy Away. It is a great book, and whether you're a fan of Maggie Hartley or foster care memoirs in general, it's definitely worth checking out.